This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. Ain't made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A game. Ain't made no rain.
Hey, now it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert. And JD is out tonight, but I have two guests. I needed two people to take JD's place. I have the one and the only cousin Joe Gilbert. How you doing, Joe?
Doing pretty good, man. I just got to say, it's awesome that you guys have better intro music than most wrestlers nowadays.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you, Godilla and Revelation for laying down A game for us, letting us use it. And then, man, I am excited to have this guy on the podcast. Me and him connected a few years ago through Fight Game Media. He was hosting a podcast over there for years. He's done some stuff with the Discovery Channel, HGTV, all kinds of different places. This dude is big time. What's up, James McDaniel? How you doing, man?
Mike, thank you so much for the invite tonight. This was, I think, probably the most watched combat sports event in history. And I was really kind of sad I wasn't going to be able to talk about it anywhere because I haven't done any podcast, anything like this in the last year. And so I was super excited when you sent me the invite to come on. I wasn't going to miss this for the world.
Yeah, man. I know you're a big fight fan, so we connected over our love of pro wrestling. But one thing that I've always that you and I have enjoyed talking about the most has probably been our love of boxing and MMA, and I think we connected about that over the years. And so, and of course, On Patrol Live, we're very clearly big fans of On Patrol Live. So,
did I send you the video of my setup tonight?
You did, yeah.
I had 3 computers set up, 3 computers for On Patrol Live, and then the fights on my TV.
Yeah.
So I was working and watching at the same time tonight.
Yeah, James had a pretty cool setup over there. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick. Terrence Sullivan said, "Let's get ready to rumble, stumble, and fumble." That was.
I'll do the fumbling if you guys do the rumbling.
Yep. And then Keepa Wilson said, "This is better quality than the Netflix stream." So I typically don't really cover a whole lot of boxing on this show or MMA. Really, we're predominantly a pro wrestling show. We're on the Voices of Wrestling Network.
Right.
But I felt I felt like I really wanted to cover the show, and JD and I were supposed to record last night, but right before we're like an hour before we're about to go on the air, he got pulled into work. And so I was like, oh man, and I didn't really want to stumble around to find a last minute guest. And to be quite honest with everybody, there was not a whole lot of pro wrestling news this week. Like, it was just kind of a slow news week. And so I was like, well, I don't really have much to talk about anyway, and I'm not going to go on the air and die for 60 minutes by myself. And so called an audible, pushed it back a night, and then I knew the fight was on. I knew I was going to watch it. I knew Joe was going to watch it. So made the audible, and now we're live after the Tyson and Paul show. So we'll get to that. I'm also going to cover the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, and so we'll be revealing those results on the air tonight. I'm sure a lot of you have already know who got in, but we'll be talking about that. And then, of course, all the latest AEW and WWE news that's coming down the pike. But James, I'll start with you first, man. So what were your overall like fight aside, right? The quality of the fight aside. This is very important to the future of WWE, is Netflix's ability to live stream a live event, right? And they have a history of having some issues, and tonight those issues were front and center, man. So what did you think of the overall show, the Tyson versus Paul show?
I enjoyed, listen, anytime Jake Paul is going to be fighting, I'm excited because it's always like a fever dream of ridiculous stuff. And so that's what I wanted, and I felt like I kind of got it, and the technical issues played into it. But man, they've had these technical issues now for the better part of a year, and they should have known this was going to be huge, but I think they probably did not know how huge it would be. I was telling Cousin Joe right before we came on the air, like, I'm hearing from wrestling fans, boxing fans, and people that do not watch fights at all. And I'm not exactly going to say everyone I know watched this fight. Everyone. I think this is probably going to go down if they release the numbers as the biggest combat sports event of all time, like just pure viewers. And I feel like they're going to need to release those numbers to explain why they kind of crapped the bed there with the broadcast, because I was following Twitter trending all night, both for On Patrol Live and for this, and just buffering at one point was trending number 2 or 3 for a while, dude.
Wow.
It was the running joke throughout the night.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching something on TNA Plus. Like that was like the issue that I had with like on my Brace for Impact show. I had those issues for years on their old server, the Impact Plus. TNA Plus is actually a lot better now. But Joe, how was the show for you, man?
I thought so. Taking away the technical issues they had, I thought the quality looked good. Some of the announcer, like Cedric the Entertainer, I didn't think was a good fit.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that. One of I guess the co-CEO of MVP said that it would be the most attended women's sporting event in America. A quick Google search says that would be wrong. Because he said that, and I wanted to make a point to notate that Nebraska versus Nebraska Omaha volleyball did 92,000 people. So
yeah, wow.
I did want to make that point when he said that. I thought the atmosphere was great. I was kind of hoping they would have the lights on at some point because I wanted to see if there was any empty areas. I've been to that stadium. That's a big ass stadium.
Yeah.
Huge.
And when there's empty spots, you can tell. And I wonder if that's why they kept the lights off the whole night.
I think this number, the 72,000, I think that's a Vince McMahon worked number.
I
there
think
were a lot of workers in the building.
Yeah. Mike said 40,000. I'm going to guess probably closer to 55. If we get a turnstile count at some point, I think 55 would kind of be they did have what would be the filled area really full.
Mm-hmm.
The lower bowl area, I know we looked at tickets because my brother was considering going. He wanted to check his son out of school and go down to it, and eventually talked himself out of it. And a lot of the lower bowl areas did look completely sold out, but that upper bowl area is just huge, absolutely huge. So I wouldn't be surprised if that entire upper bowl area, whoever bought tickets to it, probably got moved down at some point. And probably, to fill in spots. Let's see here. It definitely works. Traffic wasn't as bad for a Cowboy game. Yeah, somebody in the chat said it wasn't as bad as going to a Cowboy game. I've been to a couple. I actually went to the Dallas and Detroit game a couple of weeks ago, and you can genuinely really judge by how much traffic is there by what the audience is going to be. I was also there for WrestleMania a couple of years ago. I went to night 1, the night that Cody was there, and I think there was a legit 60,000 people there for that. I can't remember the actual number, but I think it was about 60,000 people. Okay. And I'm going to guess that this fight probably did under 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But overall, like I said, I thought the atmosphere was good. I thought the undercard fight, what was it, Taylor and Serrano?
Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that fight was awesome.
They two of the best in the world.
Yeah.
They're so great.
And legitimately, if nothing else, I'm glad those two got a spotlight from this.
Yeah.
That was probably the big thing, getting those two a spotlight because they deserved it. They went out there and killed it.
Their first fight was maybe the best female fight I'd ever seen in any in boxing or MMA. So I was really excited to see what we'd get in this one. I had a lot of buffering issues during it, but
me too.
But basically what I tweeted was I didn't see enough of this fight to know if Amanda Serrano got robbed, but if Morrow says it, I'm trusting Morrow on that.
I will say I saw enough of it. I saw enough of it, and she did get robbed.
Apparently, apparently Amanda outstruck Katie by over 100 punches.
Yeah, and Katie Taylor was definitely purposely throwing headbutts. To try to,
she lost a point, right? And I'm like, I wonder if the judges just said, "Fuck, I'm not taking a point. We're not gonna use that."
Texas notoriously has just the absolute worst athletic commission in the country. They let years ago Margarito box with cement in his glove, for God's sake. There's not the best place to get a fair call.
Who was he fighting? Margarito? Who was he fighting when he had the cement? Was it Mosley? I
I
think it was
think it
Mosley.
was Mosley, but I
I think it was.
cannot remember for sure.
Okay, yeah, but and then he ended up. I Margarito was a great fighter, but man,
He was really good.
yeah, he
Imagine him
got
with
right.
concrete.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It helps when you got loaded gloves, though, I guess.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Now there's not really much to talk about with the fight, but I was very skeptical. I kind of thought this whole thing was going to be a work, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Like much like the Roy Jones and Mike Tyson kind of thing that they did during the pandemic, where they're very clearly like Mike Tyson was very clearly pulling his punches and making sure not to hit Roy Jones in the head. For this one though, this was a tale of Jake Paul very much could have ended this fight in the second round.
Yeah.
If he wanted to. He saw that
carried
Tyson was
Mike to the
gassed,
end.
and then he was just he carried him for like the next 6 rounds. And it was honestly, it was a bit embarrassing, really. But I mean, it's Mike Tyson, so it's like, yeah, we're kind of like the whole world is gonna watch a Mike Tyson fight because he's like the most popular fighter of all time. But this was kind of a sad watch.
Do you think the plan was to carry Mike to the end the whole time, or do you think it was a knee-jerk decision by Jake? Like, I respect this guy, I don't want to embarrass him, even though it did kind of result in the fact it was a little embarrassing.
It would not surprise me if there was some type of gentleman's agreement that was like, it was like, hey, look, we can go full on, but like Mike's gonna gas out after 3 minutes, which is what happened.
Yeah.
And so don't embarrass Mike. And if you guys caught the end of it, I tried to watch a little bit of the promo afterwards. Mike challenged Logan. So if Jake would have killed Mike tonight, there'd be no Logan fight.
Yeah.
Man,
I don't see that Logan fight happening.
No, I totally agree with Joe on that. But also, Mike also had the benefit in this of having the 2-minute rounds instead of 3-minute rounds. I don't think he could have made the end with 3-minute rounds. And you heard the commentators very early talking about his legs. And just 3 or 4 weeks ago, it might have been as many as 6 weeks ago, when somebody asked him how his training was going, he said, I can't walk right now.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we'll see. We'll see. I'm like, yeah. So for the whole thing, I've been telling people, I don't think Mike has a chance. So, like, everybody kind of has a puncher's chance. Strength's the last thing to go, but he really never had a chance in this. And I was shocked at the amount of people either working, saying Mike was going to crush him, or there's a lot of fans out there who really believed a 58-year-old man could go in against not a great boxer, I think clearly in Jake Paul, but an athlete at the prime of his career.
A 27-year-old who is actively boxing like 3 times a year right now.
Yes.
And he might not be boxing against he might not be boxing against great opponents, you know what I mean? But he's still actively training and boxing all the time. And Mike Tyson's 58 years old. And and he was moving like he was 58. Now, he looked great. And God bless Texas for not testing for steroids, because I think that ruined the whole thing. But clearly Mike Tyson was on a little bit of that, HGH, probably some 10 cc's of Dianabol a day. Like he was jacked.
First of all, Mike, how dare you? Second of all, the man is simply saying his prayers, taking his vitamins like the legendary Hulk Hogan.
They are good friends. They are good friends from what I'm told. I will say, I think 54-year-old Mike Tyson, because I watched that Roy Jones Jr. fight, I think 54-year-old Mike Tyson would have knocked out this Jake Paul.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
I do, because I watched that fight. Tyson moved around a lot better. His head movement is good. Was good. Like, it still looked good tonight. He still knew when to duck and dive and move.
But so when Tyson was in there with Roy Jones isn't much younger. Roy Jones was a lot slower, so therefore Mike looks a lot faster. And also, like, Mike was never in any danger of being hit because they agreed to not hit each other.
Yeah, right? It's not necessarily the speed. It was just the fact that after the first round, Tyson just stood in one spot and would slowly move. And that Roy Jones Jr. match, he was able to bounce around. He was able to move around. It wasn't super fast. He doesn't need to be super fast. Jake Paul also has no cardio. He's shown that in every fight that he has. He was gassed in there tonight. You could tell in the second round he was already sweating up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's roided out and he's got no cardio.
Yeah.
I think you make a really good point that he's definitely gone downhill movement wise in the last 4 years for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's clear.
you could tell it, and Roy Jones was pointing it out. You could tell he in the first round he was bouncing around a little bit. He tried to have some movement. When he came out in that second round, he was flat-footed. You know,
Yeah.
he tried to bounce around, but he lost it pretty quick. And he would try every round at least for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, and
he would come out in every round and he would just kind of like he had a little bit of gas tank left, and then he
Yeah.
would do the classic Tyson kind of head movement where he's kind of doing that like what we all saw growing up, and then he'd be gassed after a couple of those movements and he'd throw a couple of punches and
Yeah.
he was done.
They should have allowed oxygen tanks in the corner. That would have made the fight way better.
Yeah, well, I mean, they allowed steroids. Why wouldn't they allow
Yeah.
oxygen tanks?
Exactly. I mean, and they took it from 3 minutes to 2. Like,
Yeah.
you're already giving, like, if you're gonna go and work all the way, just go and work. Give them oxygen.
Yeah.
It feels a lot to me like how they, they're letting them do steroids. They're doing the 2-minute rounds. It feels a lot to me like the UFC tomorrow night, just saying, "Oh, we have the greatest eye poker of all time.
Yeah.
Let's allow the eye poke gloves back." Just
Yeah. Yeah. A day after John Jones says he doesn't like the gloves, magically they're just dropping them altogether.
Yeah,
And
just
nobody knows why.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have a feeling they're going to be completely back the very next show. I think like nothing said today was true.
So
They're
they
just gonna
did
be
say there is data that shows with the switch to the new
Fewer
MMA
knockouts.
gloves, knockouts are down.
Yeah.
And if they would have just came out and said that like 2 months ago, like, hey, we're switching back to the old gloves because we've shown that knockouts are down and they don't really prevent eye pokes as much as they were hoping,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't have been a big deal. But
Nobody
it was
would
just
have
the
had a
fact that
problem.
they waited until John Jones complained.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, well, let's get rid of them.
It's fascinating to me that Jones has that much power in the UFC when the guy only fights every couple of years, and he's a very big draw. Don't get me wrong, but he's not like Conor McGregor.
He was never the million pay-per-view guy.
No,
he was always like a little above a Chael level at like 850, something like that. But he was never the guy. But Dana just loves him, no matter how many cars he wrecks.
Well, he's the greatest. He is like legitimately the greatest fighter Dana ever had, right?
Yes.
And so, and he's going to capitulate to great fighters, and he's always kind of looked out for John Jones, no matter what the hell he was getting himself into. And
which is a full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah.
What I think it is in terms of his power with UFC, I compare him a lot to, for totally different reasons, but he's UFC's John Cena in that he draws enough and you know he's not going to leave you. He's not going to go and try to be a boxer. He's not going to go and try and just leave you high and dry.
Well, the difference is with John Cena, you never thought John Cena was going to jail. And with,
that's why I said
John
for totally
Jones,
different reasons.
Worry. So John Jones can leave you, but for jail. Like that's where he could go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I see a lot of similarities between the UFC now and WWE from like 2004 to when Vince left in terms of trying to create the brand as the star as opposed to creating stars, because Dana really, I think he got spurned by McGregor becoming as big as he was and Rousey becoming as big as she was and then leaving him, and then he had nobody else to bring the money in. And it felt a lot like when Rock and Austin left, Vince had nobody to bring the money in, so try to create the brand, and then you have one guy is not going to leave you. Like Jones will be there.
I think Dana was so burned by Rousey and Conor that he's almost intentionally tried to not build stars.
Yeah,
to the same level since then.
Well, and he's tried to cut off their negotiating power, which is what he did with Francis Ngannou.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Fuck it, go! Like I'm not meeting any of your demands. Go to PFL. They're not going to do anything with you that's going to make you guys. That's going to make them any money." And unfortunately, he was right, because like nobody watched Ngannou's latest fight with PFL.
Yeah, it's a shame that fight didn't happen after the Tyson Fury fight instead of after the Anthony Joshua fight.
Yeah,
that's a real shame.
Yeah, I do wonder if it would have. I'm not sure how much more money, but on Ngannou's side, he still has made more money because of the Tyson Fury and the Anthony Joshua fight. So he still came out the winner, even though Dana White denies that 100%.
Now that Jake Paul's a heavyweight, he should fight Francis. I think I would like to see that.
I would actually, and because I pirate most things, I would pay pay-per-view money to see Jake Paul fight Francis Ngannou. You know
Yeah.
what? I think
Take my money.
Jake Paul could take him, and I think he should put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah. Hey, Jake, you should fight Francis. He's a little bitch. You could beat him up. Come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on, you take
Guys,
Francis.
he got knocked out by Joshua. Like,
Yeah.
should
Come
be
on.
easy for Jake Paul, the problem child.
So
Give me
you
that
know,
on
we'll put a bow on this whole Tyson thing because again, we are on the Voices of Wrestling Network, but I find this to be so fascinating. This whole thing. Like James said it best. This is probably the most watched combat sports event of all time because we're talking about a worldwide audience. I think Netflix has like over 100 million subscribers, right? I mean, they're
worldwide. I think it's 140 million.
140 million. So we're probably looking at upwards of who knows how many millions. I'm really anxious to see just how many people watch this whole thing. I mean, we could be looking at what
282 million worldwide subscribers. So they are far past what even I thought.
So what do we think of 75 million?
I honestly think this could hit 100 million just because everyone I know watched this. Everyone. I mean, people that only follow me from Haunted Live on Travel Channel, HGTV people that have no connection to the combat sports world. I'm hearing from all of them tonight because they remember that I talk about fights. I've been shocked.
Well, and the thing is that
tonight I'll hear from 15 people. I probably heard from 50 people tonight.
Well, the thing is that Tyson, he's not just a boxing celebrity. He is like a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah,
he is the greatest
right now.
Yeah, he was the greatest pay-per-view draw of all time. I think eventually he was surpassed, but his name only got bigger. And then he got put into movies. He did a little bit of wrestling. He is like a cultural figure. He is, next to Muhammad Ali, one of the famous boxers of all time. And for him to come back and I got to hand it to Netflix. The countdown show that they did for this thing was incredible. It was almost it was as good as the De La Hoya Mayweather countdown show that really kind of brought boxing back into prominence. Do you remember that, James? For their fight, because boxing had been dying for years, like because Tyson was on his way out, and these guys were lighter weight guys, and nobody really knew that it would draw any money. But that whole documentary series that they did for the fight,
it changed everything.
Changed the dynamic of the sport, and next thing you know, boxing is back to being a pay-per-view juggernaut, and Floyd Mayweather became the king, right?
Yeah.
And Tyson was bigger than Floyd. Tyson was way bigger than Floyd.
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
So, streaming issues, kind of a BS main event that, it wasn't a real fight.
Right.
Do you think this was good for boxing? Because I think outside of the streaming issues, I think people that tuned in, they saw a really good fight in Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, and they saw a very big spectacle basically for free. Yeah. If Netflix puts more boxing on, do you think more people are going to tune in? Do you think this is good for the sport?
I do. I think that say what you want about Jake Paul. I think he's a clown as far as like a boxer.
The most successful douche of all time.
Yeah, but that's his persona. I don't really think that his persona and him in real life are too far apart. Like I think a lot of that's just really him. Right. But he has done a good job of promoting boxing. And what I mean by that is he putting people on the card to highlight them. And I think Joe said it best with Taylor and Serrano, highlighting them, getting them on the card. And then the fight that was on right before that, I thought was an incredible fight too. The judges were weird in that fight.
By the way, where are the names here? Somebody put them in the basically the champion was minus 1,400.
Yeah.
And the underdog was plus 700. This was a huge underdog to come back and almost win that fight and to knock down the champ. That was a really good fight as well for people that tuned in for the whole thing.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see Netflix follow up with another boxing event and a real one. Like you're probably not going to get a Tyson Fury fight, but try to get an Anthony Joshua fight. Try to get another big name that's going to deliver a real main event. They have the money.
Yeah.
Like if people show, they'll watch.
Yeah, I think Netflix can get Canelo.
Yeah.
Canelo doesn't sign long-term deals. I think they could put Canelo on top.
Good point.
And if Jake Paul was really serious, he would fight Canelo. Canelo would kill him. Canelo would murder him. Like that would
Man.
be like boom
Let's
boom
just have Jake
Mancini.
Paul.
Like that's what would happen. But
Let's just have Jake Paul run a gauntlet and just keep fighting bigger and bigger opponents until he eventually gets to Canelo and Ngannou. Like,
See, now you've just taken me back to the WCW days when they had people run the gauntlet and have to fight like 6 guys or whatever.
everybody loves a good gauntlet.
Just threw me back. Yeah.
yeah. But
Bob-
I go ahead, James.
Oh, I was just saying that Bobby the Brain Heenan said that in the post-fight press conference or the post-fight interview, Jake Paul said 120 million people were watching. Of course, there's probably some hyperbole to that, but I bet it's minimum 75. What's your guess?
I would put the over under at 75. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
And anything that Jake Paul says, you have to discount about 80% of what he says.
Yeah.
You're pretty well close to the truth at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He is very much a promoter. He's mostly full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Transferring Heat makes a good point here. Saudi can make it happen. So Saudi can get anything done, I think. And so if Saudi's willing to pony up a bunch of money and Netflix is willing to pony up a bunch of money, I think you can make any fight in the world that you want. It doesn't matter who it is.
Do Fury Usyk 2 on Netflix.
Yeah.
If Saudi wants people to watch it, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah. They could do like here's the challenge though, is I don't want them to raise the prices. I'm already spending like $17 a month on this fucking Netflix because my kid needs Gabby's Dollhouse and now I've started to watch a bunch of the content on there. Dude, I just watched the Elvis documentary, the latest one. It is insane, really good.
Really good. Okay.
Then there's a George Knapp documentary on here called Investigation Alien. Tremendous. Everybody should go check that out. I didn't know there was
a George Knapp doc.
Dude, it's a 6-parter, bro. You got to check that out.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm all in on that, man.
Yeah, you're a George Knapp guy. I'm surprised you didn't know that already.
I've been work's killing me, man. Work's killing me.
I feel you there. All right. I know a lot. Let me get to the chat real quick, and then we're gonna head to we're gonna talk about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. So Drew 101 says, I imagine they papered the number, but the crowd size looks similar to Errol Spence fights that have drawn about 45 to 50,000. That was what I was thinking it would be. But again, Joe said, they didn't really turn on the lights, and I think that there's a reason for that. Transferring Heat turnstile count for WrestleMania 32 was 80,709 according to Thurston. So I wonder if somebody actually goes to get the turnstile count on here. Let's see. See, Dobby agrees with Joe. Get the fuck out of here, Dobby. Don't agree with Joe. Tyson looks so much better against Jones Jr. Was much more mobile. Yeah, well, but Tyson also almost died on a plane this year. So, so a lot's happened in 4 years, and a lot of drugs have been taken.
Big 4 years.
Yeah. But Keith Wilson said they had a massive influx of subs, like they need it, right?
Yeah.
But this was huge. I think that this was huge for Netflix, and I think the NFL on Christmas is going to be like really big too.
Mm-hmm.
And
they got, I think, 2 games, right?
They have 2 Christmas Day games, that are exclusive to Netflix, which is
they can't mess that up. Like NFL, you cannot mess that up.
Yeah, if they have the buffering issues, Netflix might burn that night. Like, football fans don't enjoy much in life, but they have their football. So,
Joe,
it's got to be perfect.
Joe, did you steal this one, or were you just like watching legit on Netflix?
Oh no, I stole it.
Okay, how was your stolen feed? Your stolen feed?
Yeah, it didn't buffer a single time. I didn't know. I didn't know people were having issues until Rocky called me and he's like, "Hey, are you watching the fight?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Is your Netflix buffering?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't pay for Netflix." Like,
I was watching the Netflix feed and it kept buffering, and I was like, "This reminds me of all the UFCs that I've stolen." With the buffering issues, but
somebody told me, somebody DM'd me. This feels like watching watching the Pacquiao fights on Periscope back in the day.
It felt like watching wrestling pay-per-view on the scrambled channel on cable. or like when you're trying to watch some Skinamax, like waiting for a titty to fly across the screen. Like that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
but hey, and we kind of got that with Mike Tyson's bare ass.
We did get Mike Tyson's bare ass.
Dude, that was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
They get unbuffered just in time for that.
Yeah. Who was it that put it? I think it was Dave Portnoy, wasn't it? Let me look up.
Portnoy had some great tweets tonight, man.
Yeah, he's really funny. I don't care what anybody says about him. He makes me laugh. But let's see. He had the really good one of the Tyson's ass. Hold on. And if you guys are wondering if I'm going to pull this up, yes, I am. We're all going to watch this together.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. Who doesn't want to see Tyson's ass? He's only 60-year-old guy. Look, there he goes. Gives a kiss, and there's his ass.
Oh man.
Oh, that's funny.
That 60-year-old ass looks better than my ass will have ever looked at any point in my life. Birth to the day I die.